Learn Excel from Mr. Excel Podcast, episode 2210. Round up to the next quarter hour. Hey, welcome back to the Mr. Excel Netcast. I'm Bill Jelen. Today, another question from my Atlanta Power Excel seminar. Someone was doing a billing spreadsheet, and they wanted to round up to the next quarter hour, right? So for each task here, they have the client start time and end time, and to calculate the elapsed time, well, that's simple. If those are real times over there, just E2 minus D2. All right, now, so that's saying 55 minutes, but it's saying it in a really weird way, 12:55 a.m. We want to go in and format this, choose time. Now, hey, look, there's a few different choices here. 13:30, 13:30:55, which would show the seconds, and then 37:30:55. All right, now for right now, I'm going to choose the 13:30, but we're going to circle back later on and re-examine that choice. So I choose OK, double click to copy it down, and you see that it is just doing the math. So here, 25 minutes. But the person who asked this question, the firm they work for, they want to round up to the next quarter hour. All right, so quarter hour. Let's think about times in Excel. Noon is 0.5. If I format that as a time, 12 noon. And if I do 0.25, that'll be 6 a.m. All right, so the way this works is one full day is the number one. And so if we wanted to figure out 15 minutes, it would be, there's 24 hours times 4 quarter hours. So we'd have to put equal 1 divided by 96 in there. And that gives us 15 minutes. Now, 1 divided by 96, I can kind of do that math in my head, 24 times 4, 1 divided by 96. It's certainly easier to remember 1/96th than to remember this decimal, 0.0104166667, right? So it's easier to use 1/96th here. And so we're going to use a function called ceiling. Ceiling. See, we have a choice between ceiling and CEILING.MATH. For positive numbers, they're identical. It's shorter to type ceiling. So I'm going to use ceiling and round to the nearest 1/96th of a day, which is 15 minutes. And that's the right answer, the wrong format. We'll copy these formats over, Control-C, and then Alt-EST to paste special formats. And the 55 minutes rounds up to the next hour. Double click to copy that down and see the 35 minutes rounds up to the next 45. 25 rounds up to the next 30. It seems to be working. Although the person who asked this question, they're rounding up to the next 15. Maybe your company uses something different. All right, so to round to the nearest quarter hour, we use 1/96. But to round to the nearest 5 minutes, there's 24 hours. There's 12 5-minute periods in each hour. So 12 times 24 is 288. Use 1/288 to round to the nearest 5 minutes. If you round to the nearest 6 minutes, there's 10 6-minute periods times 24 hours. You round to the nearest 1/240th. To round to the nearest minute, to the nearest 1/1440. All right, so you can do this. And we also have a choice. Ceiling is always going to round up. So 16 minutes. And let's go to 1/96 there. 16 minutes is going to round up to 30. All right, and while I'm sure my attorney thinks that's a great way to bill, it's not really fair to me, the client. All right, so ceiling will round up. My attorney is never going to use this. This floor will always round down, but probably what is the fairest thing here is to use MROUND. So equal MROUND of the time to the nearest 1/96th, and that'll round down for everything up to about 22.5 minutes, and then after that it'll round up. All right, so it rounds to whatever it's closest to. So you have to choose whether you're going to use floor, MROUND, or ceiling, and then what your divisor is going to be, whether it's to the nearest 5 minutes, nearest minute, or whatever. All right. So there we're rounding up. Now a bonus tip here. And this was Larry in that seminar. Larry says, hey, look, it's not really good to show billable time in times like that. We really want to convert to hours because you're going to be billing at some rate. $35 an hour, $100 an hour, $500 an hour, whatever your rate is. And we need to be able to multiply the hours times our rate. So it'd be nice to convert those hours to a decimal time. So we take that time in G2 and multiply it by 24, and that's going to give us a decimal number of hours, but it's going to be in the wrong format. They're going to choose a time format in this case, when it shouldn't be a time format at all. It should just be a number format, and make sure to include at least 2 decimal places. double click and copy that down, and we get our times. All right, now going back to our question here of which number format should we use, this is a really good place to talk about why. If I choose all these numbers here, we'll see that the sum is 53 hours, and if I come down here and put in a sum function, we get 53 hours. That's perfect. But if I'm using the sum function below a column of time, and I do alt equals or the auto sum, it gives me 5 hours. 5 hours, which is right, 53 or 5. Well, it turns out, in some weird sense, they're both right. But here's why they're both right. I'm going to enter a function called equal now. Equal now. And you'll see I'm actually recording this back on May 9th, so 20 days ago, and it's 7:08 in the morning. And with now, sometimes I want to show the date and the time, but other times I just want to show the date. All right, so I can make now give me the current date, or I can make now give me the current time. And so the number functions are happily to either truncate the time off or remove the date off. And this one that we chose down here, the 1330, is saying, hey, I don't want to see the number of days, just show me the time. Yes, that's a problem. This is really 2 days and 5 hours. 2 days is 48 hours. 2 days and 5 hours, and we've told it. We said to Excel, hey, don't bother to show me the days. Well, we didn't know we were telling Excel that, but that's what we were telling Excel when we chose this one or this one. All right, so you're forced to come down here to 3730. That's the one that says show us the full number of hours, right? And we get the correct answer of 53 hours. But it seems really silly to show those extra seconds when we're rounding to 15 minutes. So let's go back into that. After you choose 3730 to learn the number format behind this, click on custom. You'll see the thing that makes it work is the square brackets around the hour. But we don't need the colon second. So now we can edit that custom format. And so we have hours and minutes. We don't need to understand today what the semicolon @ sign means. It's saying that for text, just show the text. But just leave that part there. Even if you don't understand it, click OK. And we now have our time in hours and minutes, leaving off the seconds, but the totals work. Really, really subtle, that 1330 and the 1330.55. It doesn't say, hey, you're telling Excel to ignore the date, the full days, but you are. Things like date and time math are in this book, Mr. Excel Live, the 54 greatest Excel tips of all time. Click that eye in the top right-hand corner to check it out. This sounded like such an easy question. I can't believe that we're 7 minutes in already. A company wants to bill in quarter hours, and they always want to round up to the next quarter hour. So 24 hours in a day, 24 times 4 is 96. 15 minutes is equal to 1/96. So use ceiling of A2 1 divided by 96 to round up to the next higher quarter hour. Use MROUND to round up to the next to the nearest quarter hour, and then FLOOR to round to the lower quarter hour. Always goes back. There's 24 hours in a day, so you could do 1 divided by 288 to get to 5-minute periods, 1 divided by 240 to get to 6-minute periods, 1 divided by 1440 to round to the nearest minute. And then the bonus tip there at the end. Which number format? You always want to go back to that 3730 if you're going to show hours in excess of 24 hours. To download the workbook from today's video, visit the URL down there in the YouTube description. Well, hey, I want to thank you for stopping by. We'll see you next time for another netcast from Mr. Excel. Hey, thanks for hanging along with just one more bonus tip here that I'm not even going to bother to mention. What I started out with here, let's clear this whole thing, a little formula that came over and pointed to one of these decimals, right? So the nearest quarter hour. But I wanted to show that not as the 10417, 0.010417. And it's awesome. In the number formatting, there's actually something called fraction. And if I choose up to 2 digits, I'm going to get 196. But I need to handle that 1/288. So I choose up to 3 digits, and it still shows me 196. But then when I convert over to this one, the 1 divided by 288, it will show it correctly. Now, I guess I should have done 4 digits to handle the 1 divided by 1440. What's that going to do? That's going to give me... But if I go into the number format and go to custom and just add an extra question mark there, and we'll get the nearest 1440 to the 1 1440th, the fraction number format. Cool thing.